Last but not least, a few words about the Chinese security approach to the Africa security issues. Generally speaking, economic development is a higher priority in China's relations with Africa compared to security issues. China is involved in African security issues primarily for two reasons. The first one is the image and the necessity to take actions as a responsible stakeholder. And the second one is the security interests are closely associated with the Chinese assets, Chinese investment, and Chinese personnel on the ground. Related to the Chinese naval facility in Djibouti, there's also a rising angle of China's overseas military deployment. But that development is not yet matured, and its significance remains to be seen. China emphasized that in terms of the principles, China emphasized that local government's opinion on security issues in Africa. China insists that UN and regional organizations such as AU must play a dominant role. And China also generally supports the political approach to a negotiated solution rather than military intervention. China's involvement in African security affairs take place through several channels, and Ambassador Xing mentioned some of them. Actually, the first one in the Chinese dictionary is bilateral military aid that China provides to African countries, including cash and training. African military officers still make the largest share of foreign trainees that Chinese military academic institutions receive. The content of this training ranges from academic education to more specific technical training, such as mine sweeping. The second channel that China plays a role is through the UN peacekeeping. We know that China boasts the fact that it is the largest contributor of peacekeepers among the P5 countries. And in 2013 and 2014, China dispatched combat troops to UN peacekeeping missions in Mali and in South Sudan. Last but not least, China's approach towards the Africa peace issue also is that China has been providing considerable financial support to the AU peacekeeping missions, including in DRC, Burundi, Somalia, and Sudan. Although China has claimed that such emphasis on the AU is to strengthen Africa's own ability to achieve peace and stability, there are also some internal and also altruistic considerations on that this year. Because China perceives that working through UN, especially at the UN Security Council, on Africa peace issues cannot circumvent the traditional influence by the Western colonial powers. And working with conflict countries bilaterally usually raises international suspicion and criticism about China's intention and impartiality. The emphasis on AU not only helps China to strengthen its relationship with key African countries, it also helps to differentiate the Chinese approach from those of the Western powers. So in brief, besides a few exceptions other than South Sudan, China tries to play a role in Africa peace and security issues in an indirect manner. They try to work through regional organizations and focus on financial support and capacity building of the African Union. China has committed support to the African Standby Force and committed support for training, intelligence sharing, and joint exercise in support of an African collective security mechanism. I'll stop there and look forward to the discussion. Thank you.